In this next article from the Daily Mail, a record 409 migrants made it across the channel to the UK in one day. A total of 30 boats are believed to have made the crossing, first setting off in early hours on Wednesday amid absolute mayhem in the world's busiest shipping lane. Today's arrival means last month's single-day record of 235 migrants on 17 vessels has been shattered. Astonishing photos show groups who'd dodged border forces staggering out on the surf and collapsing. This year, at least 5,025 immigrants have arrived in small boats. That figure is not included today's or yesterday's total. And it's because they pay migrants to move to Europe. They give them all this socialism. They set them up in fancy hotel rooms. They give them a monthly check. And so this is causing a massive, huge floods of people to flood into Europe at record-breaking rates. And the liberals, they don't want to do anything about it because they say, no, that's far right. You can't stop illegal immigration. That makes you a Nazi. You're like KKK if you kick out the illegal immigrants. So we just have to let them take over and then have them bring Sharia law with them. Like, oh, man. Nah, I'd rather enforce the border laws and not have to deal with that. I don't really want... Mosquito. I don't want my child to have to grow up having to... compete with migrants for cheap labor. I want the migrants to be able to assimilate into our culture instead of being a permanent underclass. Because when that happens, you get a lot of gang violence and people try to murder you. This happens. I've had people try to murder me before, and it's just never fun. There's always going to be, you're going to find a bunch of psychos in every batch of people. And so we don't really want to be competing with anybody for largest ghetto. Definitely want to have a inclusive society, but we can't really do this under the liberals' policy because they want to be fair to everyone. And the reality of the world is that if you're fair to everyone, you are fair to no one, because what you get is you get record-breaking migrants flooding in from other countries, and then people want to be compassionate and help these people out. But what happens when they help them out is that the migrants in the rest of the world get word that they're paying you to move up there, and they love migrants there, and you just have to pay the human smuggler all your money to have them human traffic you into the country. And then at this point in time, it gets really bad, and then these migrants start dying in boats. Then they become a permanent underclass. They can no longer have the same lifestyle that you did, and then they will start rioting, and it'll eventually turn into a large-scale war because you have a permanent underclass. This is a bad thing about permanent underclasses. They're bad for everyone. The best thing that they can do is get their act together in their country so that they're not mass migrating over here. It's the reality of the world. You can't just mass migrate out everywhere else in the world because of this. This is a very compelling reason as to why you can't just do that. There's a U.S. or the UN projections for world population up to 2100. You can see that Africa is just skyrocketing. They're spitting out 80 million new people per year. We can take 1 million max, and then that causes our culture to change. And then we will then end up poor like these countries, and then we'll have the same problems that they had in their country, why they moved over here. This is why we have to enforce our immigration laws so that the problems don't come here, because that would be a lot smarter of a thing to do. It's better that we just help them out in their country to have a good life possibly with some programs to relocate them and to build them houses that they can work with so that they're not flooding across the border into our country. I know that sounds mean, but the alternative is much meaner. You have to deal with terrorist and civil wars in your countries when people aren't getting their way because they're the permanent underclass, like the black looter mobs in our country that are burning, looting, and murdering, trying to force everything to give them everything that they want because they hate Donald Trump and they hate cops and they hate Trump supporters. If we don't give them what they want, they are going to burn our cities down